Thirdly, Muslims cannot bear the burden of proof. They can claim all they want, that millions and millions and millions of people over the centuries have memorized and so perfectly preserved the Quran. They can claim this all they want, they can believe it all they want, but they can't prove it. If there was a strong oral transmission of the Quran present, then the early Muslims did not know about it. So if there was some sort of a miraculous oral preservation of the Quran, the early Muslims did not know about it. Fifthly, Muslims have to explain why belief in perfect oral preservation is simply a modern development.
So for his first claim that Muslims can't prove that Quran was orally transmitted, we have a gift for him. The first gift is a book called Al-Nashr fi al-Qira'at al-Ashr by a great Muslim scholar named Ibn al-Jazari, who lived in the 14th century. In this book, he provided evidences for the oral transmission of Quran by providing names of famous Quran reciters who fully memorized the Quran. And also he provided chains of transmission of the recitations of those Quran reciters.
If there was a strong oral transmission of the Quran present, then the early Muslims did not know about it. So if there was some sort of a miraculous oral preservation of the Quran, the early Muslims did not know about it.
Here is a book named معرفة القراء الكبار by شمس الدين الذهبي, who was a scholar in the 12th century. He quoted a narration for Abu Darda, who was companion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Suwaid bin Abdul Aziz said, when Abu ad-Darda radiallahu anhu had prayed Fajr in the mosque of Damascus, the people would gather to learn Quran from him. So he would put them into groups of 10 with an instructor for each group, and he would stand in the mihrab watching them. If one of them made a mistake, he would refer to his instructor, and if the instructor made a mistake, he would refer to Abu Darda and ask him about that. It was narrated from Ibn Mash'am, said Abu Darda said to me, count those who are studying the Quran with me. I counted them and they were 1,600. Allahu Akbar. 1,600 memorizers. Can you imagine? 1,600. Allahu Akbar. Prophet Muhammad taught the Sahaba. And the Sahaba, like Prophet Muhammad was only one individual, and he taught tons of Sahaba. And the Sahaba taught tons of the people. Huge number of people. Allahu Akbar. As you can see, 1,600. And for each group of 10, there was teacher.
So here Abu Darda, who was companion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was a perfect Quran memorizer. And not only that, he also had 1,600 students who learned Quran from him. Yet, this guy is saying,
if there was a strong oral transmission of the Quran present, then the early Muslims did not know about it. So if there was some sort of a miraculous oral preservation of the Quran, the early Muslims did not know about it.
Now for his third claim. He claims that perfect oral preservation of Quran is a modern development.
Fifthly, Muslims have to explain why belief in perfect oral preservation is simply a modern development. Why does this look so much like a doctrine among Muslims that has simply evolved with time?
In other words, he is claiming that modern Muslims of the 21st century invented the idea of oral preservation of Quran. But what if I showed this guy that the oral preservation of Quran was mentioned by tons of early Muslim scholars, some 900, 800, 700 years ago, centuries ago. Take Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, who was a scholar in the 13th century. He said the transmission of Quran depends on memorization of hearts, i.e. oral memorization, not on copies. He also says, and the Quran is still preserved in the chests with a mutawatir transmission, i.e. transmission by multitude of reciters. Even if someone intended to change something in the copies of Quran and then presented it to Muslim children, they will know that he changed the copy of Quran due to their memorization of Quran, oral preservation of Quran. Ibn al-Jazari, who was a scholar in the 14th century, also says transmission of Quran depends on the preservation in hearts and chests, i.e. oral memorization, not on writing the copies. So were Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Jazari time travelers from the 21st century, according to this guy's logic?
I have revealed to you a book that can't be washed away with water, which you will recite when sleeping and when awake.